What's going on, YouTube? Got another knife review for you. This is of my highly anticipated Zero Tolerance 0560. I've been waiting for this knife for several months, just like most of you guys out there, and I was getting jealous just watching all of you guys put up your videos of your impressions of the 560, and finally I got it. So here's my review. Probably nothing new in this review compared to all the other ones that are out there, but these are my thoughts and my take on the 0560. This is a collaboration with Rick Hinder. Those that are familiar with the knife collecting community, Rick Hinder is definitely not a new name. You know, quality synonymous with Chris Reeve. Build quality in terms of just strength and hard usage, you know, synonymous with Strider. And so, you know, Zero Tolerance, to be able to put up this all together as a production knife company, you know, obviously Kershaw being the parent company, I really think they were the perfect ones to be able to put this all together. Obviously, they've done a Hinder collaboration in the past with the 0551, you know, or the 0550. That's the production one. This is the Sprint Run 551 with the LMAX steel and the Lego G10. This knife is one that was highly sought after. I think it's still pretty highly sought after because of the configuration, the G10 and the you know, the LMAX steel. This is a great knife, and even though I haven't ever really put this to any hard usage or actually any usage whatsoever, you know, build quality, I was extremely impressed with this knife. And you've got a lot of, you know, things reminiscent to Hinder. The lock or the lock pins or the thumb studs work as the lock stop. You've got the Hinder stabilizer. You got the large pillar standoffs, flow through design. This, I think, being a stainless steel liner with G10, then a very thick titanium frame lock from Chris Reeve. So with the 0560, you've got a lot of same things. You've got the Hinder like lanyard hole. You've got a again lock bar stabilizer, Hinder lock bar stabilizer. You got the thumb studs that again work as the lock stop or the blade stop pins here. But the main thing that separates this from the 0551 is the flipper. And Hinder XM18s and XM24s are known for their flippers. Obviously they have a non-flipper design, you know, and you just deploy it with the thumb studs. But I think the one thing that really made Hinder's pretty famous and pretty well known is the flipper. You know, the fact that it had this huge choil, and it had that front choil as well, which is the probably the main thing that's missing. I'd love to see something like a grind regrind where he grinds out a front choil for this knife. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. But you know, outside of that, it is very Hinderesque. It's not quite as beefy. It is a thinner knife, you know, in terms of profile. Fits very well in your pocket. If you're going to compare these two knives together here, you can see, I think if I can line it up right, you know, there's quite a bit of a difference in the thickness here, and kind of proof of that is the fact that, you know, this is a 3 3/4 inch blade, overall length of 8.8 inches. You can see it's quite a bit longer than the 0551. This being a 3.5 inch blade, but they're both you know, they both weigh in at 5.8 ounces. And you know, that has to do with the thickness, but also has to do with the milling job in this knife. So if you're able to peek in there, this liner is titanium. You can see how much this knife is milled out here, if the lining is okay. But the other side of that, you know, on the actual frame, the titanium frame, it's also, you see these pockets that are milled out in this titanium. I don't know if you can really see that in this lighting, but on the lock bar, you know, it's milled out here. There's like milling here, and there's milling here. So there's these pockets of titanium that are, oh man, that are cut out from the titanium frame. Overall, this knife, obviously, the main other selling feature of this knife, outside of the fact that it's a Hinderer collaboration, is this flipper. This is one of the smoothest flippers that I've ever used. I mean, I used to have a 0301, but that's got the speed safe, so it's got a torsion bar that helps the blade, flick out. I had the leak, same thing, speed safe, torsion bar, and that, flicks the knife out for you. But this is a pure manual flipper. There's no assist at all. The only thing it's got is the KVT, so that race of ball bearings inside, inside a little plastic bushing. And those bearings kind of just run inside a little track on the blade and inside the titanium frame. If you want to see the internals of this knife, check out a PRS Player. He's got an awesome channel. Will is a knife pimper and all that kind of stuff, and he took this one apart. He took the Kershaw Tilt apart as well. Two very similar knives in terms of the way they're milled out, and the amount of work that they put into a production knife is pretty amazing. So you can kind of see how the KVD system operates in these knives. But again, this flipper, with these bearings, makes for one of the smoothest flippers out there. One thing that I think a guy named Kershaw Knife Guys, he must work at Kershaw, I'm assuming, because he got a first look at the 0777 and this one. One thing he did was kind of just like wave this knife, and you can kind of see how it just kind of rolls along, and it's just super smooth. And the weight of the blade, if you just do this, it kind of just falls into place. That's how smooth the pivot is, and then you can kind of just wiggle it shut like that without any hands. So again, it's just like, it's crazy how smooth this knife is. People have talked about or complained about the detent on this knife. It is extremely tight, and for me, I haven't been able to flick this knife out with my thumb. I have to use a flipper, and that's totally fine, because for me, I kind of like having this flipper. When it's open, it makes for a great finger guard here, or this huge choil that's not going to go anywhere. Compared to this is my Jake Hoback flipper, and this, I cannot flip this out without flicking my wrist out a little bit. And even though this is a much beefier knife, this also has a bearing, like a roller bearing system, so they're not ball bearings, and so I definitely think it's not as smooth. It's definitely a stronger and beefier knife than the Zero Tolerance, and it's got this massive like shark fin flipper, but yeah, it definitely doesn't work nearly as nice as the 560. The Strider with I brought this out because of the G10 and the titanium, very similar in terms of function. Hinderer lock bar stabilizer here, huge pivots, and then of course Sebenza, some very thick, similar sized knives, and just for you guys to kind of check out. One of the things that I wanted to point out on this 0560 though, I think this is probably one of my favorite production knives to date. This one or this one, they're both really, really great production knives by Zero Tolerance. But I kind of want to do a comparison between these two knives in particular. And the reason that I wanted to do that, obviously, they're Hinderer collaborations, but there's a difference in, I feel like, the production. This one, I believe, is machine cut, for the frame, so you can kind of see that gap. All these knives have a pretty large gap, in the frame. Even the Sebenza's got that kind of that gap cut out on there. This one, however, when you look at it, is extremely thin, and I believe it's laser cut out. And for a frame like it has to be very precisely cut out. But I think that's, in terms of precision, obviously the blade and everything, the cutout, the milling, this 3D machining and everything is done really well. But there's also a lot of rough edges on this knife, which is a slight detraction in terms of my like for this knife. This jimping on the frame lock side is extremely hard cut, and you can easily kind of cut yourself or rub your skin raw on here. Again, this jimping on top here as well is very hard cut, and the reason right now that I can slide my finger a lot easier on it is because I took a diamond stone and I had to kind of sand down these edges here because they were very sharp initially when I got this out of the box. And the same thing here, I kind of rubbed a little ceramic stone around, especially around here. You know, it was really sharp. It would kind of catch on my finger or catch on my pocket even. So that 3D machining, you know, initially it just made for a very rough feeling knife. It's much better now, and I think I might, you know, sand it down a little bit more down the road. But as it stands right now, it's a very comfortable knife. And yeah, so in terms of production knife, I think it is a great knife. Another really quick thing in terms of fit and finish, if you can see here on the G10, I don't know if it's going to come out clearly on the camera, but this titanium protrudes out a little bit. I don't know if you can see that right there, but anyway, so the G10, you know, it's not flushly cut, you know, on this titanium right there. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, it's not a huge deal. Oh my gosh, wow, that just sucked. Anyway, so yeah, overall impression of this knife, I think it's kind of the perfect size. They said that this knife is, you know, right in between the size of a XM24 and an XM18. So, you know, it really is that perfect size. You know, a lot of people complain about the XM24 being too big, you know, at 4-inch blade, and the XM18, I mean, I think 3.5 is probably around the perfect size, but 3 3/4 is just kind of like that little happy medium. So yeah, I'm really sad because I just I just damaged my titanium on the 551 there, which is really sad. But anyway, great knife for the price. You know, if you can get it, I think a lot of places are sold out already at $260. You know, but for that price, you know, considering Hinderers are easily, you know, $700, $800, $900 because of the markup. You know, at $260, you are getting one heck of a knife in there, and that's, you know, basically that's zero tolerance. You know, you get a lot of knife for the amount of money that you pay for it. So if I were to compare this to, you know, the Sebenza or the Strider or even this custom Hoback, I mean, this is definitely going to hold its own. And this has been the knife that I've been carrying around the most lately, and I really enjoy it. It's very comfortable. It's just a super fun knife to just flick out, and it's, you know, I get really annoyed playing with this knife sometimes, and, you know, I flick it out and it's like half open, and it's kind of stupid. So yeah, anyway, so that's my overall impression of the 0561. Get out there and order it, pre-order it if they're already out of stock, and just wait for a little bit. I think you'll be pleased with the quality of this knife. Alright, thanks for watching. You guys take care. Bye.